Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're going to continue with our possible character series, where we'll discuss their lore, their rules on the tabletop, and how they could be implemented into Total War Warhammer. It's been a small while since we've done this, but I've recently got my hands on a new version of this model and I felt like it might be time to discuss her. I'm of course talking about the Masque of Slaanesh, so without further ado, let's begin. To better introduce this character to those who might not be aware of her, we'll read over her entry into the Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th edition army book for the Demons of Chaos. The Masque of Slaanesh, Eternal Dancer, Accursed Maiden, Darkling Deceiver. The Masque was once the most favoured of all the demonettes. She danced for the joy of performance, and wove enrapturing displays so dazzling that they could strike even immortal gods with silent awe. Yet the Masque was undone when Slaanesh suffered his most terrible loss in the Great Game, manoeuvred by Tzeentch into a war with Khorne and Nurgle that he could not hope to win. Thinking to ease Slaanesh's mind and ills, the Masque danced for her Dark Lord. Never before had she performed with such skill. She glided across the ballroom floor of broken dreams and sundered promises, each sensuous and graceful motion flowing effortlessly into the next. No mortal could have watched her dance that eve and remain unmoved, yet Slaanesh was angry at his defeat, and his proud heart filled with the acrid pain of humiliation. As he watched the demonette dance her flawless dance, Slaanesh only saw a barbed jest at his expense, a subtle mockery aimed at his wounded pride. All at once the Dark Prince could bear no more, and flew into a terrible rage. He laid a curse upon the Masque, condemning her to dance throughout eternity against her will, unable to rest her limbs or take the merest pause to savour other experiences. Her dancers would now speak in testament of Slaanesh's glory, every motion a stylized rendition of one of the Dark Prince's greatest victories. His ire spent, Slaanesh turned his back upon the Masque and retired to his inner chambers, where the touch of his handmaidens could perhaps temporarily heal his great hurt. So has the Masque been doomed ever since. She dances across the mortal and immortal planes to music only she can hear, never able to rest. She is drawn to places of sensory excess, and is wont to appear before the high table at a great feast, or during the closing act of a fine opera. Her golden mask flickers and changes as her dance progresses, taking the guise of the characters she portrays. Such is the power of the Masque's curse, that all nearby are drawn into her unholy pageant. Eternal demon or mortal man, all play their parts in her fluid pantomime as flawlessly as if they had been rehearsing for the moment all their lives. The dance's tempo changes as the story of Slaanesh progresses. In the Dance of Dreaming, where the slumbering prince waits to be born, the Masque and her chorus drift into a sedentary and languid movements. Conversely, the Pageant of Pain, reenacting one of Slaanesh's greatest victories over Khorne, is a tableau of spasmodic movements that ends with the entranced cast tearing at each other's throats and eyes. Not all of the dancers are from the past. They are drawn from all points in time. The power of the Masque's curse allows her to recreate events yet to come, from the caging of Loak and the purging with fire of Nurgle's garden, all the way up to the legendary Ran Kand Anra, the final battle and twilight of the gods. Any who survive these manifestations have only the scantest memories of what truly occurred. They see only the ruin and death around them, and feel only the bone-weary agony of a body pushed beyond its limits. Meanwhile and elsewhere, the mask dances on. A rather interesting character for the forces of Slaanesh, mainly because the mask was punished for trying to make Slaanesh feel better. And even more so, Slaanesh was the Chaos God who had possibly the least amount of unique characters introduced in the lore of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. On the tabletop, the mask was a rather well-rounded melee-based character, boasting rather large attack values and weapon skill, especially for a Slaaneshi character. She was able to do quite a decent bit of damage, nothing too special as her strength was already quite low, but even then, a large amount of attacks does benefit. In regards to special rules, she really didn't have that many. First is unnatural reflexes, which meant that she had a rather large ward save. This on the tabletop meant that it was a 3+ ward, which was actually quite rare. Not many characters would have more than a 4+ ward save, so it can be assumed that she'd also have this type of effect more or less in Total War Warhammer. Her most well-known special rule was that of the Eternal Dance, which was a rather interesting debuff. You see, there were 3 different options to this debuff, only one of which at a time could be placed on an enemy unit within a certain amount of distance from her. The Dance of Dreaming reduced leadership, the Flesh Spasm Polka reduced strength, and the Waltz of Lethargy reduced enemy initiative, all of which could be translated into Total War Warhammer, barring initiative of course, but that could easily be replaced with Unit Vigor, and all of which could function as 3 individual bound spells. However, this could even be worked upon in a certain way, whereas we could see upgradable bound spells. The basic variant will be able to pick a single target, but the upgraded version will be more of a area of effect debuff, which I think fits rather well, especially when you go into the lore of this character, which of course mentions that she will enthrall both mortal and immortal foes to dance her wicked dances. I think something like that could be implemented into Total War, but it very much depends if the engine actually allows for it. As far as I'm aware, there are no upgradable bound spells, but I could be wrong. You'd only be able to cast 1 debuff at a time, maybe with a 60-second cooldown or so with the upgraded variants, and the standard variants would have a 30-second cooldown. I think something like that could work rather well without being too overpowered. But now we'll look towards the last special rule, Dance Alone. The Mask of Slaanesh cannot join units. Okay, of course, so this is a strange thing. So joining a unit is not really a thing in Total War Warhammer. Instead, I believe that this rule will act as a way to introduce her as a legendary hero. In lore, the Mask of Slaanesh doesn't really lead any armies. Instead, she's traveling both the mortal and immortal planes to search for new victims. She would work well as a legendary hero, as she's not really a big name character to be given the Lord treatment. But unlike all legendary heroes currently implemented, I think she should be available to all possible Slaaneshi lords, where in a random sense, very similar to that of Gotrek and Felix, a certain Slaaneshi lord, obviously first controlled by the player, will have a notification pop up. The Mask of Slaanesh has been sighted, and it could be through a random spawn, very similar again to Gotrek and Felix. She could literally be anywhere. You would be tasked to find her, subdue her in battle, and then eventually recruit her to your cause. She would be with you permanently, until however she gets defeated, where she won't be killed outright, but rather go off on her own merry way to be able to dance somewhere else, where after a certain amount of turns the pop-up can then show up again, and if you want to recruit her, you'd be able to recruit her again. The idea around this is to keep her as a legendary hero, but for all Slaaneshi factions. This means that she won't be tied to one specific lord. This is something that's happening a lot to many legendary characters, where legendary heroes are tied to them specifically, and the only way to recruit them is by confederating with said lord. It also plays rather well in regards to her lore, where she's constantly moving, going to different locations to wreak havoc, as she is aware where great catastrophes will happen. There's not really too much to say about this character. I believe we've covered everything possible, especially since legendary heroes don't tend to have anything too unique about them. I'm of course referring to anything unique in the form of special items to follow around, special quests and so on. If anything, that's usually linked to the legendary lords in question. But I'm assuming that as this character isn't that high up on the food chain for Slaanesh, she will honestly make the best choice for a legendary hero, and I'm very much hoping that we'll see more legendary heroes in Warhammer 3. They are becoming more common in the Total War Warhammer series, and it's a great way to expand and introduce characters which otherwise would not really be introduced. But what do you guys think about the Mask of Slaanesh, and how would you have her implemented? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.